Here's a guy who's covered so many of these owners over his many years in New York with the Daily News. Obviously, a big-time author and just a bon vivant.
Big-time guy.
Yeah, he's a big-time guy, and that is our good friend Mike Lupica. Hi, Mike.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
So what do you make of this? I mean, Ambassador Johnson seems like he has fat hands.
You know, and you'd say that all Jets fans should be rooting for him to get his ambassadorship back, except that I think Douglas and Saleh got hired while he was in England. If I'm not mistaken, I think they kind of did. So he can now blame his brother Christopher for those hires. Obviously, he didn't do them himself. You know, but before I came on, I was talking with your very fine producer, Anthony, and I said to him, it's unbelievable how Woody has gone flying past Jimmy Dolan now as the worst owner in town, because all Jets can hope for at this point is that Woody will somehow bumble and stumble his way into hiring a Leon Rose. Because when that happened with the Knicks, and I still don't fully understand whether somebody suggested Leon Rose. I've even been told that Leon kind of put a hand up and said, wait, I can do that. But it has completely changed the vibe, the perception, and obviously the success of the New York Knicks. And the New York Knicks had been bad for even longer than the Jets have been bad. I mean, the New York, and you know, it's funny because for all of the giddiness of last spring, the Knicks still haven't made it past the second round of the playoffs in 25 years. Think about that. Mm-hmm. 25 years, they have not made it past the second round of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But now they have players. They have a fan base that has been re-energized, and it started with Leon Rose. And Jets fans can only hope against hope that much like a blind squirrel finding an acorn, right, that Woody might actually, one of these days, hire the right person to be in charge of his football operation. Because in the immortal words of my dear friend Bill Parcells, Woody Johnson does not know whether a football is blown up or stuffed.
Right, but he does have the power, and I'm with you. You got to bring in the right people. But also being part of the right people is to be able to say no to Woody, to be able to say, yes, boss, and then do what you want anyway. I mean, if you're going to cave to him, then it doesn't really matter how good you are at your job.
Donnie, who's going to say yes at this point, seeing the massive, almost biblical dysfunction of this team over, you know, going back to when they last made the playoffs? Forget about no. Who's going to say yes to him? Who's going to say yes and raise a hand with the Jets and say, oh, yeah, that's the place where I need to be?
Rex, I guess that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
But not to run the football operation.
But you know, Mike, there's only 32 of those jobs, so you come in and you think that you can handle it better.
I think so, Michael. But this, they have. If they're reading the story that Zach Rosenblatt and Diana Rossini wrote in The Athletic, and I don't doubt any of it. Okay, if they're reading that,
do you think that Joe Douglas should have got a byline on that too? Just wondering.
Well, I don't even understand the point of firing. You know he was going to get banged after the season. I don't really understand the point of it, but he's in this like he's like what, a gerbil on a one of those wheels,
a hamster wheel, if you will.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I knew you'd have it. Okay, and so he is just, he doesn't know what he doesn't know, and so now he's just making moves. And I'm telling you, I've been joking for a couple of days on social media before this story. He can't blame Saleh anymore. He can't blame Joe Douglas anymore. Who's he going to blame next? And in the tweets, I said, hey, where are you going, Aaron Rodgers? Not knowing that he wanted to bench him after 4 weeks.
I think that this story is so damning, Mike, that, I mean, Woody almost has to reach out to like a Mike Lupica or go on a radio show and put out this fire. And if he keeps quiet, Mike, it's a tacit admission that all of it's true.
Mike, here's what I was thinking, and I'm sure you guys agree with this. The right thing to do, but guys like Woody, you know, Woody born on third base and thinks he hit a triple Johnson, okay? is to say, I am more responsible for this mess than anybody. To take some accountability. It's not going to make him more popular with Jets fans, but it might at least show a glimpse of awareness and this sounds crazy, humanity. And do a mea culpa here, because none of this happens the way it happens without him. He had clearly decided he didn't want Robert Saleh before they started off, okay? And then he thought, oh, this will be a genius move on my part. Now they've won one game since then, and the defense has gotten much worse, okay? And obviously he wants to blame Douglas for personnel that, wait for it, he's been saying all along is the most talent he's had in 25 years owning the team. Now, that talent didn't assemble itself when he thought it was great. But when everything has turned to you-know-what, Douglas was the next guy to go. Rodgers will be the next guy to go, because this has worked out even worse than anybody could have ever anticipated. And I think I said this to you last week, but I'll say it to you again now. Aaron Rodgers' Jet is going to turn 41 in a couple of weeks. Willie Mays joined that team when he was 41. It's two different sports, and it's the same thing for two aging superstars, except people like Willie Mays a lot better than they like Aaron Rodgers.
And he got the Mets to the World Series, or he's part of a Met team that went to the World Series.
No, he was. And guess what? For all of the images, and
he didn't have a terrible year.
It's Michael. You're 100% right. And by the way, I mean, Rodgers has slipped on some banana peels, but you can make a comparison between the year he's having and the year Willie has. But you're right, Michael. Willie was not nearly as bad as those images of him falling down in the outfield.
Right.
Let's walk down the hall to Dysfunctional Life Stadium and find out what's going on with the Giants. And is DeVito starting because he's the better quarterback than Locke, or is he starting because at least it gives a little juice to the last remaining games of the season?
They're using this kid for cover. Yeah. And God bless him. I mean, he's an unlikely story, and he won them as many games last year as Daniel Jones has won since he signed the contract. Think about that. Tommy DeVito won 3 games. Jones is 3-13 since he signed the contract. But this speaks to why you cannot let Joe Shane off the hook for what's happening here. And I don't know how complicit Brian Daboll is too. Why do you even you're going to need a backup quarterback. Unless you're a complete idiot about football, you're going to have a fallback position this year, except they bring in a guy they never had any intention of putting out on the field. So I don't even know why they suited him up. I don't know why DeVito hadn't been the number 2 guy all along. So, listen, it's impossible to root against Tommy DeVito. But this speaks to dysfunction, you bet. Right down the hall, just as big at MetLife Stadium as the Jets. And I wrote about this the other day. We can blame Dave Gettleman for drafting Daniel Jones where he did. But nobody made John Mara and Steve Tisch and Joe Shane and even Brian Daboll extend him. That was the damning crime, because that put them behind the 8 ball for 2 more years. We're now up to 6 years, and if they don't find the right guy next year, then we're moving up on a decade that they built around this kid.
Think about it. Both New York teams are going to need a quarterback next year, and it's not a deep quarterback draft, and there aren't that many people that are, needle movers in free agency. We might go into next year, both teams with bridge quarterbacks, Mike.
It's so clear that, and Michael, we've been having this conversation for as long as I've known you. I think we've had it here on previous Wednesdays. The Giants and the Jets are both in that position that bad teams are in all the time. Their only plan is to get to their next plan.
Right.
What is their only plan? Their only long-range vision is to get to their next plan. Until they screwed that one up, and as bad an owner as Woody is, and he's as bad as I've ever seen in New York sports. Okay, as bad as he is, and I love the Mara family. John Mara and I went to college together. I like him a lot as a guy. Okay, they've lost their way just as much. That they haven't been quite as bad as the Jets since the last Super Bowl, but they've been pretty damn bad.
So, do you run it back with Shane and Dable if it bottoms out and they'll only win 1 or 2 more games, or none at all?
He's in a tough spot. First of all, he's already said he's not going to make a change.
But he said that about Joe Judge, too.
Who?
He said, yeah.
Wait, what?
Well said.
What? No, I don't. I think everything has to be on the table. I think everything has to be on the table because they have to get out of this death spiral. Think about this. After the second Super Bowl over the Patriots, they were like a model franchise. They were back to being what they want to be, which is Pittsburgh Steelers East. Okay, they had won 2 Super Bowls. They had beaten one of maybe arguably the greatest team of all time. They'd done it once when that team was 18-0, and now look at what has happened to them. Tom Coughlin had all those losing seasons before. Then Pat Sherman. Then Joe Judge. Ben McAdoo was a massive error, whether he got him to the playoffs or not. And they're just spinning around. They're just spinning around like that Twister movie, and I don't think they know how to get out of the place that Keith Hernandez used to call when he was in a slump, which is a deep, dark forest.
I'm a Giant fan. You're a Giant fan, and I respect the Maras so much. I mean, Wellington's nickname is on the football.
I love I love the old man.
But we lived through this back in the late 70s with the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and it really just came down, as you said, you just hire the right people. They're forced to hire George Young, which leads to, of course, Parcells, and that's the era. That's it. I mean, from 56 to now, that's it. I mean, so I don't want to blemish the Mara era because they meant so much to football, but they could be as clueless about football as everybody else until they finally were able to get George Young and get the ball rolling in the right direction. I mean, really, there's been a lot more dysfunction than there's been function in the time that I've been watching them, going back to the mid-'70s.
And look what happens after George. Then we get Ernie,
right,
who's one of the great football men who only makes one of the greatest trades in the history of New York sports, and gets Eli. And by the way, just quick aside here, he is an absolute, hands down, forget about it, first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't even think there's a debate about this. I know he's a semifinalist now. I'll be shocked. Because, Michael, you can't spell elite without Eli.
Oh, I've heard that. Yeah.
Changed Michael's life.
Yeah.
You're so right.
It was a simple, Mike, just to go again in the wake battery, it was just a simple question that day.
From a simple
Remember?
man. Yeah, it was a simple question from a simple man.
And a wrong answer, but an honest answer. You know what I mean?
But he won the Super Bowl the year he said it. So
no, it played out great.
You know what's funny, Mike? If you ever listen to that tape, I said, "Do you consider yourself an elite quarterback?" And he said, "Yes." And I go, "Really?" That was my response.
That's why they have editors, Michael.
Yeah.
That's why they have editors.
Not on radio, though.
Putting on that jacket. When he's putting on that jacket and you play that tape, we are not going to hear another damn thing from you.
You know what? It's a really good point.
Yeah.
He could mention it. He may come up in the speech, Michael.
Yeah.
Now, I have a hunch. I know how you feel about this, Mike. And somehow, because we're hacks, the three of us, we didn't talk about it last week. But did you make time on Friday night to watch 58-year-old Mike Tyson step into the ring again?
100%. I will admit to this that I had kind of fallen asleep, and then Zach Lupica, the young man they call my brain. Okay, he lives in Southern California, so he's got a big edge on time. He said, "Are you having trouble with Netflix?" And then I remembered that I watched every minute of it. I listened to the hysterical commentary.
good way to put
I
it.
watched them. I loved it when they panned the crowd, other than Shaq, when they panned the crowd of all those B and C and D listers, like this was the fight of the century. And then it unfolded exactly as I thought with Paul and Grandpa. Okay, I knew he wasn't going to try to kill him. He didn't want to be the guy that laid out, the heavyweight champ of AARP. Okay, and
wow.
so. No, it became. You know what it became? Did you guys all watch it?
Yes.
Yeah, I went. I was there. The two of them watched.
You went?
That's right.
He was one of those C-list celebrities.
No, I am. Mike Tyson is to me, and this part you probably won't disagree with, and I remember watching you talk on television the day after that fateful June 29th, 1997, the day after the Bite fight when you were on the Sports Reporters. He's the most fascinating athlete of my lifetime, and I've wanted to. I am, as long as he's still part of the sports world, I want to see what the story is. So I went down there to see it unfold.
So that's okay. That's okay. But here's the thing about Mike Tyson. As I listened to all this praise for his career, he's not even one of the top 10 best heavyweight champs of all time. He's just not. His career is being wildly over-evaluated because of when he fought and who he fought and how he fought for that very short time essentially before what happened at the Canterbury Hotel in Indianapolis happened, okay? Nothing was ever the same for him, and so for the GOAT, or the greatest of all time, in what world was he the greatest of all time as a heavyweight?
I will only push back.
He would have cleaned his clock.
I'm only pushing back on one thing you said, because I think people in our business are known to be slightly hyperbolic. I think he's a top 10 heavyweight champion.
Maybe, okay, but maybe bottom of the top 10. Okay?
But he's not, but Mike would never. You know the historian he is. He would never tell you he's as great as Ali. That's just what people have foisted onto him.
He's not as great as Larry Holmes. He's not as great as Rocky Marciano. He's not as great as Joe Louis. I mean, we can go through the list. I'll push back on Larry Holmes also, but the other three I'm not going to fight back with you about.
But listen, I hear what you're saying. Did you think
it was? Lennox Lewis would have kicked his ass.
Well, he did. Don't worry, that happened.
But
you mean prime?
Yeah, in his prime. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Now, did you think in his prime though? What was it? One of the most fascinating and interesting ascents you've covered? Yes,
but that's different. The story and the fighter; those are two separate things. Listen, I was in Atlantic City. Dick Schaap and I went down to, God rest his soul, we went down for the Terrell Biggs Mike Tyson fight. Okay, I was in the dressing room with him because it was a different world. We're sitting around with him like the Wednesday before the fight, and I don't know if he'd said it before then, but I was there when there were two British writers said, we've just been over talking to Biggs's people, and they seem to have a pretty good plan for you on Saturday night. And that's when Tyson said,
No.
No,
you were there for that?
I'm sitting in the room where he just looked up and quietly said, "Everybody's got a plan until they get hit." It's been changed over time to get punched in the mouth, but he may have said it before that. But I know I heard it with my own ears that day.
Wow.
You have any feeling about the Soto sweepstakes? Are you having a meeting with him in Southern California at any time?
Michael, 25 years ago, Scott Morris was having the same sort of meetings, and he wanted to hear about farm systems and long-range perspectives and all the analytics and how they were going to allocate their funds going forward. And after that, you know what he did? He took the most money.
Yep.
Okay? And I still think this is going to be a money play. Right now, the Dodgers are lurking and scare me, just as a New Yorker. They scare me because they can offer him something that even the Mets can't offer, which is, okay, you can't hit in front of Judge anymore, but how would you like to hit in front of Shohei Ohtani? Okay, and so right now, if I'm betting this, I think the Yankees, and I may be surprised, and he may be in right field at Yankee Stadium next year. I think they're running third behind the Mets and the Dodgers. And I don't think Hal's going to spend $600 million on a baseball player.
That I'm not sure of. I think they have a line in the sand, but I don't know where that line is. I can't say with
Michael,
any certitude where it is.
I have said this all along, and I have written this all along, and until it's different, I believe this. I believe the number's going to be 7 at the end.
Oh, because he wants to top Ohtani's deal. I'm talking about
100%.
Scott, not Juan.
And I just think I think I've told you this before. This is like Steve Ballmer and the Clippers. He's bidding against some other rich guys, and he just throws down $2 billion finally, which nobody had gone anywhere near that. Because he's thinking to myself, let's call off the contest line. I want this team. I have the money to do this, and that's why Cohen and the Dodgers are both dangerous, because I think that they can say to Scotty, you know what? Come back to us after you get your best offer from the Yankees.
Great stuff, Mike. As always, we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Man.
All right, you guys. Talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, that is Mike Lupica.
Always good.
Got to tell you, at first when he said Larry Holmes better than Tyson, to my ears, which are in this case, I think our age difference is truly significant. Mm-hmm. In my head, it's like Larry Holmes is great. Come on, and then when you look up Larry Holmes' record and who he beat,
oh, he was good. He was great.
Larry Holmes beat practically everyone Tyson beat.
Yeah,
he beat at a later part of his career, and then of course, including Ali. Plus names like Ken Norton and Ernie Shavers.
No, everybody, all comers.
He really. I knew he was great. Leon Spinks, Jerry Cooney, Tim Witherspoon, Marvis Frazier, just like Tyson. James Bone Crusher Smith, just like Tyson. Carl the Truth Williams, just like Tyson. The biggest difference at the time was, and we've talked about this, he lost both to Michael Spinks.
Right. When he was older.
When he was older,
right.
Who then, of course, Mike annihilated. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he really did some impressive. Do you want to know? I'll give any of you $100 crispy dollars if you tell me the last name that Larry Holmes fought at a much later date than you would ever possibly guess.
Oh yeah, he had some Fugazi fight in the 2000s, didn't he? I can't remember who it was.
You're too close. Did I just say $100?
Was it Lennox Lewis?
No, it's more Fugazi. Don's closer. In 2002, he fought Butterbean.
Oh, yeah.
It says Eric Esch. That's Butterbean, right?
Yeah.
I do remember
Butterbean's
that.
no longer with us, right? I believe.
I think Butterbean is with us.
I don't think you throw that out there, Michael.
You've done it before.
Yeah, and I get
You've killed
destroyed
Sidney
for
Poitier
it.
because of
I
it.
think Butterbean is still with us.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, it just says birthplace.
Oh,
it doesn't
good.
say death place.
I love it. I love when heavy people live a long time.
Yeah, but you
It gives
killed
me
him.
hope.
Why is it okay for him to kill people?
I didn't
No, it shouldn't be.
I just misread something because I'm dumb. He just
killed him.
He just said it could go either way. I'm going to guess dead.
I said I believe. He said Sidney. Rest in peace, Sidney Poitier.
I misread because I got a problem.
Well, I misthought.
He misthought.
But you're supposed to be the genius of the group.
Oh, no, I'm not at all.